This is Chapter 12 from the book titled Speaking from Spirit by Rosemarie Rubinetti Cappiello. This is Rebecca's story, read by me, Rosemarie. This was the very first story I wrote. I set some time aside one morning and sat to meditate for a bit to clear my mind and power up. I had no idea what to expect, what would come if anything would come, or what I was doing. I only knew that I was to sit and let those from Spirit come to me. I sat and sort of waited until I felt compelled to write. My grandfather and father, who are in spirit, and Benjamin Franklin, who often shows up as a spirit guide for me, were all present. Suddenly, I felt comfortable, ready and open. I became aware of a young woman speaking to me in my consciousness. At one point, she sat in the room with me, and her presence was very noticeable. I could hear her more than I could see her. As she described her situation, I felt as if I were taking dictation. After I was finished writing her words, I read the story. I really absorbed what she was saying. I could feel all of her emotions and those of her parents. I could feel her compassion for them, and then eventually for herself and her situation. I realized this was more than a story. It was an inspirational message, and it carried an energy vibration that was affecting me, changing me. I had no idea at this point why I was connecting to this woman, or if I was to share her information with anyone. I had no idea if anyone would find this interesting or worth reading, or if they would feel the energy the same way I had. What amazed me most was that as I reread the story, I realized there were no typing errors and that it seemed to need no correction or editing. A few days later, I reread it again. If I went to change anything, I was guided not to. It was complete as it was. I was intrigued by the last sentence and the geographical location it referred to. Not knowing if there was a Warren County, Ohio, I Googled it, and I was shocked to discover it existed. I then Googled 1986 and checked obituaries for that time for anyone named Rebecca, age 28. As I was about to push enter, I heard, felt, and sensed very clearly I was not to go any further, that somehow this would taint or influence what I was doing or how I was supposed to do it. Spirit told me these things could be verified, but not by me. Any further attempts made with other stories turned out the same way. I was not supposed to seek this information. So I learned and trusted that when I received information that does not come from my frame of reference within me, I can simply ask Spirit for confirmation to put my mind at ease. And I always get it in one form or another. I somehow felt different after writing this story. For the first 3 weeks, I sat on the same day at the same time and wrote for whoever came in. Same process, same reread with the same results, but every story, every dictation, completely different. Even the process and the way I received the information changed with each writing. On the days I would write, my whole house felt different. Everyone who lived here noticed this. It was after the 5th story that I realized Spirit was making a compilation of stories that each was going to be unique. Still, I did not know if these stories were book-worthy or if anyone would care or be affected by them the same way I was. Week after week, I just kept showing up and allowing whatever needed to be told to come through. Rebecca's story is my favorite in this compilation, maybe because she was the first to come in, but also because she taught me so much about just letting go and letting my consciousness expand. I felt then and still feel limitless because of her, and I am forever grateful. My father and grandfather immediately step in, and there is such an overwhelming excitement as they have been waiting for me to enter this space. Ben Franklin is here too, not sitting on the couch, peering over his glasses, instead standing in the doorway waiting for me to acknowledge him. "We may begin now," are his words. They are patient and slow. Ben brings in a lady. She is shy, sits on the couch. Dad is to my left, Grandpa Roger to my right. Rebecca speaks. "My name is Rebecca. They told me I could come and speak to you, that you would and could listen. I come from a devoutly religious family that would never believe in such things. Shunned and exiled is how my existence would have been if I even spoke of such things while alive. It was the summer of my 28th year on Earth when I passed. My car hydroplaned on the slick nighttime road. My father's Oldsmobile went over the guardrail and into the cool, dark water below the bridge. I stood on the bridge waiting for someone to discover my body, to discover what happened to me. It took over a week before they found the car and me. They never found out what happened. Until now. When I drowned, I thought I was still alive. I came out of the water, crawled up the riverbank, and made it to the bridge. I found it odd at first that no one noticed me and that nothing seemed to hurt in my body. Cars would pass and I would wave them down. Soon a police car passed and I jumped in front of it. But he didn't see me, and his patrol car passed right through me, effortlessly. In that moment, I knew I was no longer alive as I had known life to be. I waited and waited, and as I began to worry about my parents and what they must be thinking, I suddenly found I was with them. Exuberant, I would try and get their attention, but they could not hear or see me. Devastated, I resorted to being present without their knowledge or sense of that. I was sitting in the silent living room when the police knocked on the door. My dad was reading the newspaper. The headlines that day spoke of the inflation rate and current taxes. He assumed I disappeared of my own accord, and his anger was all he could feel, not the love or compassion I brought into the room. My mom, in her blue plaid dress with the apron I had sewn for her, was in the kitchen trying to keep busy. She wiped her hands in her apron as the doorbell rang, and for a moment she briefly felt my presence. Her intuition had already told her who was at the door and what she was about to hear. My dad, he had no clue. His anger intensified after he learned of my death. His mind found many reasons to feel angry. Once I found myself thinking of California, and suddenly I was transported there. I panicked, not knowing how I got there or how I'd get back. Then I remembered and thought of the bridge. Instantaneously, I was there. I realized that I moved with thought. It was a complete shift in my consciousness. After my body was found, I had to consciously choose where I would be. As I thought of someone or someplace, I would be there. It took a while, but I began to get the knack of this and use it with great advantage. I was desperate to tell my family what happened, especially my dad. He wondered all the rest of his life if I had committed suicide. I longed to ease his pain. He would have understood that as an animal lover, really a lover of the sacredness of all living forms, I would have done anything to avoid hitting the animal in the road. My physical death was unintentional, and knowing that could have changed his perception. It would have given him the opportunity to open his heart again. Once I tried to come in his dream state. He interpreted it as a nightmare and woke up startled and upset, never speaking about it, not even to my mother. My mom would allow me into her dreams. We would embrace and connect, and then her sadness would sever the link, and she would experience me fading away. She would grasp for me, but could not hold on. She would wake up sad the next day, and I longed to comfort her. I remember how to send my love to her through thought and intention. She would feel the warmth and comfort, but she never knew, never realized that it was me. I could be satisfied with that, though. Like me, it took my dad a while to release his earth mind when he passed. I caught on to the fact that I could travel anywhere about 3 months post-physical death. That realization allowed me to then transcend. I immediately met the faces that represented my ancestors. Even though I never met them while on earth, I knew them. They helped me to understand the process of soul return, as they called it. And they helped my father when he was ready. My mother had no problem passing. She was eager and ready, looking forward to seeing me and my father again. Her only adjustment was to the change from what her religious beliefs held and what she experienced. She was a strict and devout Mormon, as was my father. Their perception of what happened after physical death differed greatly from what they experienced. There was a brief moment where my father experienced judgment. In the process of physical death, there is a moment of release of fear consciousness. It's like Earth's gravity has been released and you are free floating. In that split second, your soul remembrance has a chance to enter your thoughts, and when it does, you are free of the limits that have often held you back, separated you, or defined you while on earth. That moment is a divine gift given to every soul. It allowed my father freedom to experience love again. My name is Rebecca. I lived in 1958, died in 1986. My parents were Marshall and Eleanor. My sister Jean passed in 1994. Her daughter, Rose Ellen, still lives in Warren County, Ohio. I have found through countless medium readings that it is important for those in spirit who have passed to tell their story. This is especially true for those who have passed under mysterious circumstances, including suicide. It is important to let others know what happened, to help those still living find peace, but also so the events can be witnessed and acknowledged. It helps release any emotional trauma held by the spirit and those who are living so that healing may occur. Telling our story helps to heal it, whether we are alive or dead. I feel Rebecca moved into greater peace after revealing her story to me, and I hope Rebecca's dad finds the understanding and compassion that he could not when he was on earth. I wish he could have changed his thinking. I wish he could have opened his heart more to his daughter when she was alive as well as after she passed. His experience and his life could have been so different. Maybe Rose Ellen will read her aunt's story, and maybe they will finally understand Rebecca's last moments on earth.
For a chance to win a copy of Rose's book, Speaking from Spirit, just click on the link in the description box or on the link that's on this page so that you can enter and win. Good luck.